This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com. This show is brought to you by Slice on Broadway, supporting Pittsburgh podcasting with the perfect pepperoni pizza. Production services by Sidekick Media Services. And listeners like you, supporting us at patreon.com/AwesomeCast. It is the AwesomeCast. Time to get geeky, get awesome. I'm Mike Sorg at Sorgatron on the Twitter here in the Sorgatron Media Studios in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And we are ready to get awesome tonight. Excited to be back in Pittsburgh because it's the travel season is now all year long, and I love it. And it was my first one of the year, except for the snow. I could do without the snow, but I'm sure we'll sort through that over the next couple months. But we got our crew with us. First of all, the always awesome gadget guru for Big Bank International, Esquire. He is in Studio C in the Big D of Dormont, PA. He is the Chilla.
How are you?
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Sorry, I was running a little bit late, which then I guess in turn caused us to start late.
It's
so
fine.
My apologies.
No, you're fine. No. I'm the one that was going on about my internet woes at an esports arena before the show. So don't worry about it.
Before I heard where you were at when you were talking about the bandwidth, I'm like, did he go to Nebraska?
No, Indiana. I'm not going back to Nebraska anymore. Actually, it's not on the list anymore.
It's not on the map.
No, it's not on the map anymore. We tried Las Vegas, and then everybody almost died from heat stroke. And then that's not real. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. No, there was not. There was no real danger. Well, there was. I mean, it was 150.
It's Vegas.
It's Vegas.
So
it's
there's
Vegas.
always something
there's always
going
danger.
on.
Let's be honest. So
your flip flops melt to the pavement. I mean, it's hot.
Oh, it was. Well, I was worried about my camera melting. But actually, a lot of Michigan is going to be in my future actually. So, and the desert in the fall, I'm looking forward to. So, anyways, that's not here nor there. Also with you on for a moment there, Dave Podnar of the iPhoneography Podcast is with us.
Thanks for having me on, Sorg. Glad to be here.
Glad you can be here. You were the Dutters replacement, the putters, if you will.
Okay, that works.
Actually,
that works.
Actually, I gotta be careful because there already is a P Dutters. So, like Brother Dutters is P Dutters.
Okay.
She's K Dutters. He's P Dutters. I don't know. Did I reveal a secret? I don't know. I need the Dutters handbook here. I don't know what I've.
Well, we did learn about Dutters that for her half marathon, she does have neon socks already.
Oh, good.
Official running neon socks.
Good.
So you will not be able to miss her at least.
As opposed to the unofficial neon socks I guess.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Well, hey, let me do this right because I know I screwed this up on the other show. Now I'm really paranoid. I'm not going to thank Patreon some weeks because I completely forgot on the other show last week for some reason. So, but hey, check out everything at AwesomeCast.com. You can hit us up an email at AwesomeCast@SorgatronMedia.com, AwesomeCast on the tweeters, and of course follow the AwesomeCast Facebook and a lot of the discussion on the Facebook group, on the Discord. The link now works from AwesomeCast.com, and over on the AwesomeCast Reddit page, you can find that too. And we're sharing stories throughout the week, and you can as well, and a lot of them make them here into the show. And you can subscribe and rate us on your favorite podcast app, and of course the video versions and the live streaming. We are live right now at 7 p.m. Eastern time, roundabout, over on the Twitter, over on the YouTube page, on the Facebook page, on the Sorgatron Media Twitch. We're on 4 locations, so there you can't miss us on a format. If you want to be a part of us and part of this and being in the chat room, you can watch us on any of those. And we do appreciate everybody that does jump in the chat room. Let us know what you think. Let us know if we're right or wrong about one thing or another, or whatever the case may be. We do appreciate you being a part of it. And also thank you to our Patreon supporters that are always a part of this and getting some extra content here and there. Hopefully we'll drop our esports internet conversation into the feed hopefully this week here. I know I think I had something from last week I need to put in there, so I was working on that a little bit today. Thank you to our friends at the Coffee Club level, Matt Weller, John DeGore, John Carmen, Cynthia Klosky, Scott McTaggart, and Mike Pound, and at the Fan of the Show level, Michael Fedor, Professor Buzzkill, and hey, Dave! Hey! You guys can support the show too at patreon.com/awesomecast. So let's get straight into our awesome things of the week. And here, let me kick off with this. I skipped this last week, which I'm glad because I watched so many more of these. I stumbled upon the Oddworld edition of this thing, Ars Technica, which I think we've used as a news source here and there on this show. They do a wonderful series that I was not aware of on their YouTube page called War Stories. These are interviews with video game developers, and in most cases, it's a lot about like problems that they solve to make certain games to happen. Like Oddworld was a big one because it was so different at the time for the original PlayStation and what they had to do, and there's I've heard so much about the technology of CD-ROMs in this as well. Things like that. The Command and Conquer games and how those worked. MechWarrior 5 and how they had to deal with that. Really good interviews. You can kind of tell when they got the COVID area and everybody's on Zoom, but if they're in person, like they're shot really well and everything. Really cool. There's this one about Ultima Online and how they had added this thing where you could like hunt on there, and it was a persistent server, I think regionally or worldwide, and you would just have this thing where all the users would just ravage the wildlife across the entire server and just like broke the game, and then they started like easing it off. There's a thing, I think it was the Forza was talking about, the artificial intelligence they use and how they're using server-side technology when you're playing that game on your console, right? Really cool. It gets kind of technical, but not too crazy. But really cool to talk about. And a lot of times it's things that are obviously well solved by now. But it really kind of, it's just a really, really awesome breakdown. Diablo 3 was another one. How Diablo 3 wasn't going to be, I think it was going to be a turn-based show, game originally, or something like that. And they always play fun because it's always like they always have these sections that are the problem and then the fix, and then they completely like tailor it to the aesthetic of that game. Like the titles, if you saw us on video, were all based in the Diablo kind of font, the fiery font kind of situation over there, right? So like I think it's really cool. I've been really, really enjoying it. It's a great thing to kind of throw on. Like today I was doing a lot of kind of video posting and social media scheduling for IndieWrestling.us. So it was you throw something on the background and just keep your mind going. But I really enjoy it. Definitely recommend it. Go on the Ars Technica YouTube page, and there's a whole playlist of war stories there, and there's a bunch of them. I think they've been doing this for a while. Just a very, very well done series. So that's my awesome thing of the week. I don't know. Have any of you guys come across this at all, or like they got everything from Myst to, like I said, Oddworld to Dead Space talking about how they're trying to make the scariest game. Amnesia about tricking players into being scared of things that aren't actually there, that they didn't even put into the game. Concepts like that. But I don't know. Have you guys come across this series?
I haven't, but I'm super interested. I actually pocketed the playlist because it's kind of nice. There's nothing. It doesn't look like there's anything over maybe 15 or 20 minutes.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You'd hit out a bunch of these. Did they talk about doors at all? Because I heard like that's one of the hardest things to code.
Doors? How do you mean doors?
Yeah, doors in video games.
In general?
In general.
So like you're talking about like Resident Evil when we saw a door in a cinematic or something?
Yeah, and I'm actually Googling right now. Doors in video games complex.
Is it going from like screen to screen? Like if it's something like that, like scene to scene or something?
So there's
like
an
that?
article. There's an article in Verge. Why game developers can't handle doors, and it has to do with like the doorknob, the swing motion, like getting that feeling, making sure if there's something on the other side of the door that it's has appropriate collision.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling I'm interested if there were to be like a really good. I'll have to read this article that The Verge put out, but I'm wondering if that's why a lot of doors in old video games, like if you remember the old like Wolf 3D,
Mm-hmm.
they were all slide panel doors.
Oh yeah,
There was no door that actually swung.
And in an era where that shouldn't have been, right? Obviously something like Doom, where you have futuristic, Star Trek sliding doors, that makes a lot of sense.
So there's a number of things that I've read, or a number of like just little blurbs I've heard about how doors are so complex to the point where in a lot of times like they end up dropping the doors.
There's no doors in this place. Yeah,
there's just no doors in this place.
I love it. I love it. It's stuff like it is stuff like that, right? Talking about the processing. I think it's really cool when they're talking about, Myst was like one of the first games that used CD-ROM, and how do we load these things, or how did they illustrate and then process these things into the computer, right? Like how they were like buying as many in the most power Mac as they could and get them ready, and anytime they walked out of the office for lunch or for the night, it's processing. And things like that. It just seems so bonkers. Or how Oddworld went out the door with a game-killing bug because they had to. It's just so wild. It also makes me glad I'm not in the video game industry, because it's more like this is like a talent and product and problem solving skill that is beyond anything I could comprehend. And we all work in pretty big problem solving kind of industries, all three of us. It's really cool to see. And of course, there's people at the height of the game for this kind of stuff too. So, but go check it out. Ars Technica's YouTube page. It's called War Stories, and it's all about video games. I love it. Love it. Let's stay on the video game side for a moment. Chilla, I see that you've mentioned this a few times before about the Skywalker salad. Yes, Skywalker salad? Is that it? Yes?
Now with more berries from Endor.
Now with a side of blue milk.
Yes, with the side of blue milk. That's what I put on my cereal in the mornings. So finally, after, I don't even remember when they announced this. It had to be like 1999.
Mm-hmm.
So Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga Lego game is coming out. They finally announced a launch date. It will be here on April 5th. Simultaneous releases for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X,
nice,
Nintendo Switch, and PC. There's a number of pre-orders. Pretty much anywhere you buy the game, you're going to get it for $60. It is not available yet for pre-order on PC. It looks like it's going to be mainly on Steam from the PC perspective. And if you really want to get your cup of blue milk, you can order the deluxe edition. I think it's about $20 more. I think it's $69.99. Maybe I can't. Oh, it's $69.99. It's $70 instead of $60. But you do get a slipcover case that lets you unmask Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker with Blue Milk Lego minifigure, and 6 collector DLC packs out of the box. Those DLC packs, if you're familiar with the Lego Star Wars, right, as you play, you get to unlock more characters, or you earn coin, and you can then go buy to unlock more characters. This will give you additional downloadable content character packs that'll be coming out later, that include the 2 different Mandalorian packs, a Rogue One pack, a classic characters pack, Solo, the Star Wars story, and as well as a pack of Bad Batch. It looks like they've added some additional combat features and mechanics. I am super excited for this game. The one thing that did kind of bum me out is there will be one of the things I really like playing, like co-op on the couch. Christopher and I play these types of games. We play the Marvel ones, we played the Lego ones. There's no mobile version, which most of the Star Wars Legos have been released on mobile, and a lot of the DC and other ones. No mobile version and no remote co-op. I was hoping that they would finally break into the online co-op. Since you're both on the simultaneous screen, it's not that hard to follow along with each other in my mind. And if you have a headset or anything to communicate, it wouldn't be that far off from what it would be like well, I think they call it couch co-op. But that is not coming to the game. In fact, I have seen very little about co-op at all, which has me a little bit worried. But I did see it on a couple of different sites where they talked about co-op, and that it would definitely not be available online. So maybe it'll release a little later, kind of like Halo's doing with their co-op. But I can't guarantee that. But I am super excited for the game. You're going to be able to go across all the worlds from Star Wars. I'm sure they're much like the other games. They'll be releasing content over time. So, and just think you might even be able to play as Grogu.
Maybe it's looking pretty cool here. And I notice it looks like it's a little more over the shoulder than the top down that they would do before. Like, I don't know if that has anything to do.
You kind of had that. I feel like that game kind of pivoted at certain points in time. You were pretty much kind of behind the character, and maybe a little bit up.
Maybe I'm thinking more Batman or something, or in Indiana Jones.
Yeah, the gameplay view looked reminiscent. The only game that I thought had some top-down type view was, what was it wasn't the one that had like the first 6 movies. They did a Force Awakens one that had a little more. To me, they actually added a lot of game mechanics and complexity to it. A lot, but no, it definitely reminded me, and we still play a lot even on iPad. That also doesn't offer co-op, unfortunately, which I think is a major downfall of that one. But
at least you always have Lego Brawls on Apple Arcade. Do you play the what is the other Apple Arcade one? Not the Battles, which I the Transformers is where I'm at with that one now. It's another Star Wars one.
It's the one where like you're stranded on an island.
Yeah, you're stranded at some Castaways is called.
Castaways. I have not. Go ahead.
I've been playing a little bit. I pull it up on the Apple TV every once in a while, and it's fine. It looks like there's a bit of co-op in there, and you kind of play these short levels, and there's like this holo simulator that's like familiar Star Wars, scenes and things like that, right? Like, Death Star runs and things like that. But I don't know. It's a nice little mobile game, I guess, and they say it plays kind of nice on the Apple TV. But it's not like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not deep enough into it, because I think I'm just past tutorial stuff on it. I'll pop in for 20 minutes and be like, move on to something else. But I don't know. It's interesting, and you can like dress up your character and all that kind of stuff. So,
can you pick? So, do you end up picking? So, the thing that got me was, to your point, like you're 20 minutes in, and I felt like I was still on tutorials. like I would, and I know you could dress up your character. Do you end up like getting to pick? Like, are you going to be a smuggler or a Jedi or?
I haven't really got into that part yet.
Okay.
I mean, I think a little bit, yeah, because I think there's like these classes and stuff. And I mean, this trailer looks a lot more interesting than what I've been playing so far already. And I think I'm just not deep enough into it. It's just you got to have a little bit of time investment in order. And then this is just kind of the cutscene of you landing on this. This is the thing that I always love when I'm watching like something like Star Trek, Star Wars, Dragon Ball Z now even, and it's like. You land on a planet, and the presumption is the planet is all the same thing, or you landed on the planet and went to the one settlement there. You have you noticed this? It was like it's a giant universe, but there's only one place to go when you land on Tatooine. That's why I've been enjoying Book of Boba Fett, because you're just like, we're not talking about Mos Eisley the entire time, right? Oh, there's this other one, also giant desert planet. Apparently, only two things. But anyways, but that's enough of that. But Podnar, what is your awesome thing of the week?
Sure. My awesome thing is something that just actually happened yesterday. Mm-hmm. Well, it's been decades in the making as a movie. It's decades in the making. But it finally reached where it wanted to go, where they wanted to put it yesterday. And that is the James Webb Space Telescope.
Ooh.
There were 400 individual times of failure.
Oh, geez.
From launch to now, 400 individual times that if this thing broke, it's space junk. If this thing broke, space junk. This thing, space junk. And it worked flawlessly. They were shooting for, I want to say, they said, if everything works as nominal, 10 years. This thing works so perfectly, they have 20 years worth of fuel. So from launch to unfolding the mirrors, to unfolding the heat shield, to doing the different things to get it to the Lagrange, what they call the L2 point, the second Lagrange point. Mm-hmm. And what's special about that is it's approximately, I think it's 1.5 million miles from Earth. Approximate, not 1 million. I'm sorry, it's around 1 million miles, 1.5 million kilometers from Earth. So if you look at the web page, it actually shows you Earth, Moon, and then way out. If you see if you can scroll up a little bit.
Oh, that's the timeline there. Okay.
Yeah. So let's see here. If you click where it says distance on the timeline on the far right.
Distance complete or on the timeline itself?
No. If you look at the time, yeah, there. Okay, yeah.
Oh, the moon
just
moves.
Because the thing is, it moves quicker, closer to Earth, and it slows down. So, but you can see there's Earth, Moon, and then you can see how far out that is from the Moon. It's 3 times worth. And the L2, the Lagrange 2 orbit, is a stable orbit. Mm-hmm. So it basically orbits around that part. So you kind of have Earth here, Moon here, and this thing kind of just orbits like this, pointed away from the Earth. Because it's infrared, it has to be very far away. It has the heat shield, and the nice thing about that website, those are real. Those aren't expected points or estimated points. Those are actual data points from the satellite or from the telescope. So you can see like the one side is minus 300 degrees and the warm side, yeah, you look on the far right there, the cold side's minus 330 to 350 degrees. The hot side, the side actually facing the Earth and the sun, is between 55 and 129 degrees Fahrenheit. And since this thing is an infrared telescope, if there's any heat that leaks from one side to the other, that'll overwhelm the signals they're looking at. Because they're looking for just the barest, the barest of heat signatures to look at the farthest away stars as possible. And being that far out, unlike Hubble, which is in low Earth orbit, where you could at the time send up, because of the very minute issue, beyond minute issue with the Hubble's telescope, they could send up an astronaut to move things around and flick things in and out. This thing, it's out so far, there's no fixing it. You're out there, you had to launch it and just let it go do its thing.
Mm.
And you figure with all the launch, it's just kind of mind-blowing that it just worked perfectly. Everything worked perfectly.
Nice.
Which is just so great. And now they're going to take, everything's deployed, but it's going to be another 6 months or so for everything to cool down and for them to start to focus the individual AT mirrors, which are around 4 feet apart, which move as around I think remember, a tenth of the width of a human hair at a time. That they can position all these mirrors independently. So they have to get all those, and then they will start to do things, and they'll calibrate it, and then the images start coming in second half of the year.
Well, you have to, because you look at what they're looking at. I just saw, I can't remember if it was related to this, but it was some sort of astrophysicist or something. I was like, you see this like black spot here in between this cluster of stars here?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you zoom in and you can see the star, like see the light from there, right? And they're like, listen, each one of these, it's taken longer than there's been humans for us to reach us to be seen. And
Mm-hmm.
each one of them like represents, I don't know how many clusters of stars. It was like this big mind-blowing thing about the size of the universe kind of thing to make you, feel absolutely insignificant. But
I will say individually, yes, but the fact that, humans, there's this isn't magic. These are humans working their, okay, I don't think this is too hard on the show, working their ass off for decades. Scientists, engineers, working with the launch people. Orbital mechanics is nasty.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, when I was in school, I remember doing it. Orbital mechanics is nasty. Designing something to survive the launch and the heat and the cold, and in a little confined space that has to unwrap itself on its own. All that is incredibly, it's like, you can't say, like the aliens. These are people.
Mm-hmm.
These are really, intelligent, driven people who work well in teams, and a worldwide team, because it was actually launched by a French rocket, even though it's a U.S. U.S. telescope. It was launched by French, the Adrian 5, I think it was called, but it was a French rocket that launched it, because when this was originally done, SpaceX hadn't launched anything yet. We didn't have anything home built that could launch it. So we had to use the French rocket to launch it, because there was nothing there. It was that long ago when they had to start designing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the thing I think you're talking about was the Hubble, the deep space image, where on a whim, for lack of a better term, they said, there's a little postage-sized spot in the sky. We can't see anything right now with our current telescopes. It looks completely black. It looks like there's nothing in there. Let's use Hubble to take a photo. And it was like, it's completely filled with stars.
Mm-hmm. 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 Turns out.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, it just the, and again, how perfectly everything worked. How, people were like, oh, it's delayed again. Oh, it's delayed again. Well, it's delayed because you have one shot.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't, well, if it doesn't work, this is beta test. We can fix. No, we can't.
Yeah, you can't just deal with a blown up one of these. It's 10 years of work,
No.
right? Like SpaceX says. It's a different thing. But also, I don't know that SpaceX would have been able to make something like this, right? It's a different. And that's because I think both methods have their advantages. SpaceX is a very, we're going to go and break things and go, and everything, and NASA and those that have worked with NASA are very we are going to do every calculation to make sure this is right before we even try it, which adds a lot of time. I mean, frankly, it's a lot of time, and that's fine. That's science. That's science.
I mean, there are certain things that, you can do quick and easy and cheap. And if it busts, no problem. You have an extra copy in the back you can throw up there. For this, you don't. And for NASA versus SpaceX, and remember, NASA is a government agency. If something busts there, forget about people dying. If something busts, that's a big, high profile event. You got congressional hearings. And you got congressmen going up there doing their, well, sir, I'm going to talk in front of you for the next 5 minutes and use big words because that's what I like to do as a congressman. And you're like, yeah, we don't want that. We want to be able to do our job. We want to be able to, I truly believe most people on their job, but especially people at NASA are like, we want to do cool things. We went through all this school. We learned all this stuff to do cool things, like telescopes like this. And can you just let us do our cool things without looking over our shoulder when you have no idea what you're talking about? And that's why when things like this happen, they get people. You see the control room get so excited, and there's so overwhelming joy, and it's so wonderful to see.
The super geekiness. I love it.
Oh yeah,
I love it. So, well, we'll keep an eye out for that. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of interesting things. I mean, look at what we've got now, the Hubble over the last how many years? A couple of decades at least, right? And, this is, I mean, it's an ongoing exploration, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that in our lifetimes at least. So, anyways, you know what? All that space. And I bet they don't got any pizzas because of what we got over here in Beachview. New York City style units are made of friends at Slice on Broadway, sliceonbroadway.com. 4 locations, Beachview, Carnegie, East End, and the North Hills. Supporting Pittsburgh podcasting with the perfect pepperoni pizza. Thank you to our friends over at Slice on Broadway for supporting the Awesome Cast and the Wrestling Mayhem Show here at Sorgatron Media for all these years. Go check them out. Go support the guys that support us, and girls and gals. And pizza makers of all types. So thank you to them for supporting us, and go support them, please, if you will. Let's see what else we got here in the lineup. Let's hit a little bit of gamingness. I think we got it at the top here. I thought this was interesting. Now this is only, if I recall, this is in Korea and I think another, like maybe Australia or something. Taiwan, maybe. So this was interesting. Google Play games are now available on Windows in a 3-country beta. So we're talking about this was announced around the time when we started talking about Apple Arcade. Google says, hey, we're going to do that too. I do believe. Well, it's not even. It's just the games on Android. I don't think there's a subscription service at all, right? So they're calling it access to popular play games and titles on the Windows PCs. It appears to be, I think they kind of have sort of their own sort of store. Is Hong Kong, South Korea, and Taiwan are going to get it. They can get into titles like Mobile Legends, Bang Bang, and Summoners Wars. So a lot of those kind of other branded mobile kind of games I'm sure somebody's addicted to, especially in these regions that love those kinds of games. So, so this is interesting. I mean, this is more of that, syncing between platforms, Android and Windows playing together, because Windows does not, or Microsoft does not really have much of a mobile play, except for if you want to talk about, the cloud gaming on Game Pass, which I'm sure they are really kind of more in the Android camp because they're able to drop an app on Android without having to work around like they had to on the iPhone, right? But still, this is a pretty good play for it, right? I mean, it gives you. I mean, this is the thing that like loads Candy Crush in your start menu. So, and you look at this. I mean, these are very mobile-y kind of games. It's not like you're playing a Call of Duty on this or anything like this. The most impressive one, and the one I usually love to see, is the Asphalt games, because they're the ones that feel like a console racing game whenever I play one of those, right? Especially when you get it on something like an Apple TV that you can do that. And they're on so many different platforms. Another one that's popped up in like the Windows Store too. So, So I don't know. You guys ready to play? I mean, all of us, and practically all of us have a Windows computer of some sort. So even if you don't have Android, you can still kind of dive into this a little bit, right, Chilla?
Yeah, and I'm wondering what this means. Like, are they going to have to get agreement from the game developers? It obviously from that video, it shows they have a lot of the major ones. But the one that comes to mind for me is, what about Pokemon Go? Am I going to get use of the GPS or triangulated Wi-Fi, and can I bring all of my games with me? Because that is interesting to me.
And not just like, that doesn't make sense on my laptop or my desktop, but we're talking like you bring your Surface with you, right? You have a mobile device that's on cellular in your Surface, which is like a glorified iPad that runs Windows, right? So, I mean, that makes sense in those cases.
It definitely, and it goes back to, even when you go on vacation, like I'm typically packing a laptop and a tablet and a phone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the more I can trim that down,
Mm-hmm.
the better my experience is, and the more I get to take with me. I'm super interested in this because there are some games that I pick up the Android device still to play.
Mm-hmm.
And if it just makes it that much easier. And the other interesting thing, and I actually haven't done this one in a while, but I used to have on one of my Android tablets, because it's easier to get emulators on there, I had a TurboGrafx 16 emulator and a Nintendo emulator on there, just because, hey, why not? I can Bluetooth a controller. Now, if I can get a lot of that same type of stuff, it just seems to me to make a whole lot of sense.
Absolutely. What about you, Dave? I know you're very iPhone, but does this kind of open the door a little bit for you to, once this kind of gets stateside?
Possibly. It depends on the games that are there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not heavy gamer, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I could definitely, if you can expand out where things are done, that's always a positive, because we all know Microsoft, like I said, they've given up on mobile. Windows Mobile, they have the white flag years ago. They've given up on that. But Google, even though Chromebooks are popular, they're popular for schools because they're cheap. But I don't know how many people are going out of their way to buy Chromebooks just for use around the house.
Right.
Google's over here with mostly mobile. Microsoft's here with laptops and desktops. And this will really help get the crossover where Apple kind of already has that, because they have, Apple already had, but, like I said, Google's they've been pushing Chromebook, but I don't see it. Like I said, I don't know that many people just have a Chromebook as their primary computer.
Well, and the main thing here is, and they're promoting the idea that this will also synchronize, just like how your cloud save if you're like, Xbox games across Game Pass or just across Xbox in general, or Windows or Xbox to Windows. Now they're providing that, because now you're going to have the same thing between your Android to Chrome to Chrome to a Windows computer now. So now they're creating this other new ecosystem that's happening here. And also, you have BlueStacks still. I'm reminded, I put my Monster Madness over here on BlueStacks on this laptop over here. So, it's not like you can't just go ahead and play some of these things.
I tried BlueStacks, and it was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And there were some games that just didn't run well. Is that a lot better now, or a lot more?
I've literally played one game on it.
Okay.
So I don't know. I can tell you, it's an older laptop, probably a 4th gen i5 laptop, and that just runs our, what you see on the screen here when we're looking at websites, and then that's about it. And it played a very old Android game pretty well. So it was better than my Nexus 7, that's for sure. So, but
I'm interested too, why. I'm hoping they don't stop at just games, but I'm interested to see, will Microsoft let them?
But this is what's been coming. They're saying they're going to have kind of full-on Android support, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, is this the first step, or is this something separate with a gaming-minded focus? I'm wondering. So, but they're calling it Google Play Games Beta. So that's like the Google Play Game Service has come over, right? And that's that syncing and everything that we were talking about, right?
Mhm.
Versus just, hey, drop an Android app on here.
What's the game? Because like I'm even interested because what's the one game we play? Marvel Strike Force.
Okay.
Like I would like to have that on my
I'd be curious if you could throw it on BlueStacks.
computer. Yeah, I'll have to try that too. Because the other thing is, I mean, some of these games you need to get your own little guild together.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, full transparency, as we have a handful of devices around the house, we wanted to keep our guild private and we couldn't find anyone to play. So Christopher and I have our own guild with just us, but there's like 6 of us.
Across several devices.
It's six different accounts across 6 different devices.
Are you sitting there? So are you sitting there on like 6 different devices between the two of you, just kind of rolling through it, or you just kind of
it's almost? I would almost say it's like we have our 2 premier, like the ones we really care about, and then we have like the 4 supporting.
Interesting. Well, Dave Podnar, you of course are big in the iPhone photography side, and you were talking to me about macros, and you sent me a video earlier today.
Right.
I got this set up here. We're going to pull it up here. Can you walk me through this, or you want to do some prep before we get into the video?
Sure. Well, this is just a little because Apple came out with, and they do this shot on iPhone promotions every so often, and they're highlighting macro. Now, the macro built in. Now, you can get apps like Camera Plus 2 to do macro. Halide has an amazing macro feature.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have the iPhone 13 Pro or Pro Max, they have macro built in, where you don't need an app. You just have to get really close.
It's literally one of those
switches.
3 lenses, right? It's literally one of those 3 lenses.
Right. So it uses either the wide or ultra wide, and you can actually get within a couple inches of something to take a photo.
And can I tell you how much that has been helpful just in like, I'm not like taking macro photos, but I need to take a picture of this Wi-Fi password, this information here on the side of a thing, this QR code, like, and if you haven't worked with one of these newer higher end iPhones that have the multiple lenses like this, it is very interesting to see, and I see this on the wide angle too. Like if you're right on the edge of that thing and that where it's kind of doing that auto trying to figure out what the depth is, you see this kind of fade into a different zoom,
right?
And that's it switching to the different camera. So that's been really interesting to watch in practice, and not like in anything on purpose, just in day to day. It seems to happen depending on what we're doing. Setting up for a shot. Hey, we're going to take a picture of the 2 of you guys in front of the studio last week after the show, right? And you see that switch as you're going through things. So, but anyways, so you have the macro contest going on right now.
Right.
So tell me more about that.
Sure. So you can post it. When I have it set up to when I post on Instagram, it also posts on Twitter using if then that. So as long as you use a hashtag, 2 hashtags you have to use. Hashtag shot on iPhone and iPhone macro challenge.
Okay.
And then Apple will, of course, start to collect all the probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of photos that people will post. Given the amount of iPhones out there, even the amount of 13s that are out there now, or 13 Pros that can do this, and then they'll pick a winner. Fingers crossed. It'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of doubtful, but be nice. And I've seen people who have been picked in the past, and they'll do things like, well, we're going to use your photo on this giant 30-foot billboard in New York City to promote the iPhone.
Yep.
It actually, in the old, I'm trying to think, was this back on Tiny Shutter, or since we switched over to iPhoneography podcast, we talked to someone who was actually picked by Apple, and she had it was an iPhone 6. Or 6 Plus that she used to take this photo, and they used it on a giant, literally a 30-foot billboard that you see, and it was in New York City and said shot on iPhone.
Mhm.
And you do get compensated for it, just like anyone else, just like any other photo they use. So it's just, it's a nice thing to see if you're trying to get either inspiration or not just overall inspiration, but like, oh, that's a technique that someone may have used, or that's a setup they use to take a shot, or there's an angle that if I want to think about macro shots, you can then use, you can then search either Twitter, Instagram by that hashtag and look at all the photos, and you can say, oh, that's a good idea. I should try that. Or I didn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't get into the nitty gritty, it's at least something to get people started on the way to get thoughts on what because honestly, the imagination is where it all starts. Mm-hmm. So if you don't even think, hey, I'm going to try and go in this direction, you don't even know that direction exists. And you can get that by looking and seeing what other people have done.
So you sent over a sample here of macros as well. Can you talk us through this for the audio?
Sure.
And I'll go and play it here. 1 second, we'll get started. So all right, there's a look at all the icons on your phone. Yep. And we'll load that up.
So this is a screenshot of me actually. Now this is just my back patio, and I did it in the afternoon, so there's enough light. And I just wanted to take a picture of the wicker and the snow on it. Now you notice as we do you notice that right when I got closer, you saw a little bit of a shift right there.
Yep, that was what I was talking about. Yeah,
that's the switch into macro mode. So that, like I said, this is just taking photo on a table outside. Now you can either I took a photo with the 1x lens, but then I also switched to the wide camera and took a picture right on the edge.
And it's also relatively switching, like when you see that kind of shift, that's it switching the actual lens it's using, correct?
Yes, and it's also switching how the focus is done. So to actually through the ultra wide, it'll actually change the focal length so you can actually get that close. Because unless you're using a third-party camera but built in, the fact that you can just get close and it automatically knows you want close and it'll automatically focus.
Yep.
And the other thing to keep in mind, this is true. I don't know if it's only with the 13s or with the newest version of iOS. You take a photo and it's doing enough computational work. It takes a half a second to a second to get your final photo. Unfortunately. So if you take a photo,
it's taking that second, but also remember, it's doing a lot in that second. And we've talked about how high-end the chips and everything are on these phones. Like it is processing a ton of stuff.
Yeah, it's basically almost going pixel by pixel, the photo, comparing it. Because the way Apple thinks of the camera is not three. They don't think of it as 3 different lenses. They think of it as a camera combined that just happens to have 3 lenses, and we'll use information from whatever we can to kind of combine. So if you take the photo and you look at it immediately, you go, it doesn't look that great. Let it wait a half a second, and then you get like you said, if you go back to the kind of the end of the video real quick.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, that's okay. You can see the final image I came back with.
Here, and I'll pull that up here for you guys on audio in a second. So there, you're still in the taking the picture mode, I think, here.
Okay, yeah.
And then we'll come back to the picture. Yeah. And this is, I mean, we're looking at snow here, right? Like, and it's looking like I'm seeing the detail on the snow and everything.
Okay, and here comes,
there you go.
And there we go.
Yeah, you see, it looks like a bad web image load there, and then when you're zooming in on these snowflakes, that's incredible. That's absolutely
and the snowflakes,
incredible.
And if you look at the corner, you can see the wicker, the plastic wicker, and this is something we actually had when we moved into to this house from our old house. So it's at least 7
and to be
years
honest,
old. So you can see a little bit of the cracking there.
What you're showing me, you're showing me this on video, which means it's probably still not even as high quality as the picture actually is.
Exactly.
Right. So
exactly.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
and that's without any additional post processing. So my two favorite are Pixelmator Pro, which can do some amazing things. Not cheap, not cheap, but does amazing things. And Polar. Those are my two kind of go-to editing apps.
And those are both on
they're both on iOS. I don't know if they're on Android or not.
Okay.
But I know Android has its own thing because depending if you have a Pixel phone, and I know Google Pixel Photo app has its own built-in magic, computational. Samsung has its built-in magic. Now, the one thing nice about Pixelmator is I purchased it as an iPad app, and you got the iPhone app at no cost.
Yeah, it's one of the double apps.
It has tons of machine learning. It can up the resolution. This is pretty nice what it can do, even without the presets. Just correcting things, sharpening things, and Polar Polarr. I like their presets. I like some of the different things you can do with the different scenes and some of the effects you can do, like what they call dehazing. That one is free. If you want the full features, you have to subscribe. But honestly, I get so much out of the free features, I haven't needed to subscribe. But also, these two are also good alternatives to not necessarily Photoshop, but to any like Adobe platforms that you want to do, because there's different masks you do here. There's facial changes you can do in Polar where you're like, oh, I want to do a face smoother, and you can control it, not just use an Instagram filter type thing. So
how much are the in-app purchases on this? Don't they reveal them on here somewhere?
They do, and I forgot what it is, but let me open it up here real quick.
That's fine. We don't have to dig too deep into that, but
here we go. Okay, so a monthly subscription is $3.99 a month.
Okay.
But if you want to do a yearly subscription, it's $20 a year.
It's not bad.
Which is $1.67 a month. Yeah. So if you like, and they give you a 1 week free trial. So if you want to do the 1 week free trial, you're like, oh, I really love all these extra features. Honestly, like I said, software is not cheap. I mean, it's cheap compared to what it used to be, but it's not cheap to make, or at least really good software is not cheap to make. So supporting people who are putting forth a good product, that's a good thing in my mind.
Absolutely. Go check it out. Hey, just remind me, this had nothing to do app-wise other than it's an app. I paid for the AccuWeather subscription for the year because it's such a good app, but the ads are so bad, and I think intentionally so you pay. It's like $10 a year to get rid of ads. And given the traveling I'm doing, it is so helpful. And that I can tell so far, it was like early days of your Weather Underground, Dark Skies kind of apps before they kind of got, of course they got purchased and mostly shut down, right? But it's very accurate. I mostly know what I'm getting. There's not as much second guessing with the weather, other than when the weather completely goes a different way. But yeah, it's interesting. But no, worthwhile if you're down with the AccuWeather stuff. So, but yeah. So
do they?
Good.
Do they have so I can't remember who it was that actually found something. I'm looking for the same type of weather app that's integrated into a map app. That obviously within reason. Like if you were traveling, and I'm just going to make this up, right? If you were traveling from here to New York City driving, could you punch into the app like, hey, I'm going to travel tomorrow and I want to travel without weather?
If you can find that app, tell me, because I would love to have it.
Like maybe I'll have to ask my dad. Maybe it was him who found it. But yeah, like it would, and you could actually put into it like, I'm willing to go a half an hour out of my way. I'm willing to leave, or I'm willing to, be up to 15 minutes past this time, or, I'm willing to arrive as late as this time. I'm willing to leave as early as this time. how can I get there without weather? Almost like if you ever see like avoid tolls on your map app.
Yeah, like you need an avoid weather, right?
Like I want to avoid weather.
Yeah, dude, I would love that. Like the idea of, hey, there's gonna be weather coming through tomorrow. You need to get home from Chicago. You should leave at 6 a.m. if you want the easiest route. Instead of
or if you're willing to get home at, if you wanted to arrive at home at 6 p.m. but you're willing to arrive home at 8 p.m. we can also defer your travel plan, and you'll also miss the weather.
Mm-hmm. That's what I need. That's what I need so bad, because I have so much road time, and the most fearful I am is this time of the year when you're doing it, like this, like 2 to 3 months, because we're already running into it. I got a very weird, tight schedule happening in February for a weekend, and if there's any snow, it's not happening, basically. So, no, definitely that's the kind of stuff we need. If it's out there, please somebody let us know, or Chilla's dad. So speaking of, hey, it's pumpkin time, so we gotta get this thing wrapped up. Dave Podnar, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Thanks very much for having me. Always glad to be here.
And that's the iPhoneography podcast.
Yep. And on Twitter and Instagram as ProfPod. And now TikTok. Hello, fellow children. As Dave Podnar Jr.
Welcome to it. I've been seeing you on there. I've been seeing your reaction videos pop up. So, I'll be honest. I don't like watching reaction videos generally, though. Like, that's not my thing on TikTok. I like informative videos. I don't know. It's where I'm at with things. I'm just posting videos of behind the scenes of live productions that we do on there on TikTok myself, at Sorgatron everywhere, at Chilla on the Twitters as well. Are you TikToking?
I do not. I am a major consumer of TikTok, but I don't create the TikToks.
Yeah,
just yet.
I'm still kind of figuring them out myself. So, excellent. Thank you everybody for joining us again. Please, we'll tune in to us next week, 7 p.m. Eastern time on all of the AwesomeCast channels. And please share. And I don't think I did at the top there. Shout out to our friends at postindustrial.com, a great news source for those in the Rust Belt. That's also been helping share the show as well. We really appreciate their support and your support as well. We'll see you next time. You've been our awesome audience. Have an awesome week. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.